Auzubillahi minash-shaytanir-rajim. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammad. Kama sallaita ala Ibrahima wa ala ali Ibrahima innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammad. Kama barakta ala Ibrahima wa ala ali Ibrahima innaka Hamidum Majid. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbana zidna ilma ya muqallibul qulub sabbit qalbi ala dinik. Ameen. Today we'll do Surah Al-Qamar. This is a Makki surah having 55 verses in it. We will do this surah in two parts. In part number 1, we will complete inshallah 22 verses. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful. Iqtarabat as-sa'atu wanshaqqal qamaru. Qiyamah has drawn close and the moon has been split. Wa in yaraw ayatin yu'rizu wa yaqulu sihrun mustamir. If they see any sign, they turn away and say that it is a magic that will soon vanish. Verse number 3. وَكَذَّبُوا وَاتَّبَعُوا أَهْوَاءَهُمْ وَكُلُّ أَمْرٍ مُسْتَقِرٌ. They deny and they follow their whims, whereas every matter is established. وَلَقَدْ جَاءَهُمْ مِنَ الْأَنْبَاءِ مَا فِيهِ مُزْدَجَرٌ. Indeed, such news have come to them in which there is sufficient warning to caution. Hikmatum balighatum fama tughnin nuzur. A most perfect wisdom, but warners have not benefited them. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam demonstrated many miracles to the mushrikeen of Makkah when he announced his prophethood. The mushrikeen themselves requested for many of these miracles. Hazrat Anas radiyallahu ta'ala anhu reports that once when the mushrikeen asked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to show them a miracle, he split the moon. Narrated by Bukhari, volume 2, page 22. A narration of Hazrat Abdullah bin Masud radiyallahu ta'ala anhu states that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam once called the people to witness that the moon once split into two parts. The one part was visible on top of the mountain, while the other was below. Narrated by Bukhari, volume 2, page 21. Tirmizi reports that the splitting of the moon occurred twice while Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was in Makkah, and that the first two verses of Surah Qamar were revealed with reference to this. Malumat-e-Tanzil, volume 4, page 258 reports that when the Quraysh of Makkah cited the splitting, they claimed that they had been mesmerized. However, when they made inquiries from some travelers, they attested that they had seen the moon split into two parts. It was then that Allah revealed the verse, Qiyamah has drawn close and the moon has been split. Tirmizi reports that when the travelers attested to the splitting, some mushrikeen said, if we were mesmerized, everyone else could not have been. The splitting of the moon indicated to people that something that they thought to be impossible turned into reality. In a like manner, Qiyamah will also be a reality even though the kuffar regard it to be impossible. Allah states further, if they see any sign, they turn away and say that it is magic that will soon vanish. It was the practice of the mushrikeen to ignore miracles when they saw them, claiming that what they saw was merely the temporary effect of magic on them. In this manner, they deny and they follow their whims. Despite witnessing great miracles, they refused to believe because they had made gods out of their own whims and passions. Instead of accepting the truth, they chose to follow only that which appealed to their whims. Allah asserts that every matter is established, that is, the truth shall remain the truth, and falsehood shall remain falsehood. These will not be altered by anything, and if the kuffar fail to perceive the truth initially, the truth will eventually dawn upon them, and they will realize that it is not magic that they see. The author of Malumati Tanzil has interpreted the verse to mean that good will be the lot of good people and evil shall be the lot of evil people. The good will lead people of Jannah and evil will lead people to Jahannam. Referring to the mushrikeen of Makkah, Allah says further, indeed, such news have come to them in which there is sufficient warning to caution. The narratives of previous civilizations who were destroyed because of their kufr are sufficient for the people to realize the error of their ways. These incidents should jolt thinking persons out of their slumber because they are filled with most perfect wisdom. However, when the kuffar and mushrikeen are drowning in shirk and disbelief, it seems as if warners have not benefited them. They stubbornly pay no attention to warnings and continue in their way. Allah says in Surah Yunus, Surah number is 10 in the Quran, verse is 101. Arguments and warnings are of no avail to those people who do not believe. The splitting of the moon has been authentically recorded in Bukhari, Muslim, and various other books of Hadith. There is therefore no doubt that it actually occurred. However, because of the enmity of Islam, for Islam, the Kufr object to this miracle by saying that if the moon was really split, this fact would have been recorded in other parts of the world because the moon is seen from everywhere. In reply to this objection, ulama have tendered the following replies. Firstly, these were no system of recording in those items of the account to be well documented. Paper was an extremely scarce commodity then. If it ever was recorded, there exists every possibility that the recording was lost through the passage of time. Secondly, it is evident that the moon does not rise over the entire world at the same time. While one part of the world is experiencing daylight, another part is experiencing nightfall. As for those parts of the world where it was daytime, there is no question of them witnessing the event. Although it was night in many other parts of the world then, it is obvious that while the night was still young in some parts, it was later in other parts and even later elsewhere. Overcast conditions could well have prevented people in other parts from witnessing this event. In addition to this, although the splitting was visible from Mina, many people there did not witness it because they may have been involved in other activities. Many were in their homes and many were sound asleep. It is therefore obvious that if everyone in Makkah did not see it, it is even less likely that everyone else in the rest of the world would see it. There was certainly no forewarning given to anyone, so none saw the necessity to stand outside to watch. Those people who were required to see did see the event. If the people of the world or all the Arabs had been the miracle, some records would then surely be found. The people of Makkah who saw the miracle did not believe in it and regarded it to be an act of mesmerism. It is therefore obvious that they would never have documented the event to give it impetus. There is therefore no wonder that the event is not recorded in historical works. Although the sun is far larger than the moon, yet the sun is not visible to the entire world at the same time. While some parts of the world are experiencing daylight, other have nightfall. When a solar eclipse takes place, the news spreads fast that it will be visible only from certain countries at certain times. It is not visible to the entire world. Then, too, although the news of the eclipse is disseminated through the media months in advance, every person of the country concerned does not see it because the news does not reach everywhere. In fact, even if one has to ask the educated people of a country when an eclipse took place in their country and how many times it occurred, they will be unable to answer. There is scarcely a book available that details the chronological sequence of eclipses throughout history. If this is the case with solar eclipses, which occur relatively frequently, one should not be surprised when the splitting of the moon is not documented, when it occurred only once. In addition to this, it occurred only in Arabia at the time of Isha, and no sooner did it split into two than a short while later the two parts joined to reform. Under the influence of the kuffar, many Muslims also refute the occurrence of the splitting of the moon and say that the verse only refers to the day of Qiyamah. This is far-fetched because the verse is clearly phrased to refer to an incident in the past tense, not in the future tense, even though one may prove this point by interpreting the verse in the future tense. There is no way in which one can interpret the relevant authentic hadith on the subject. There is nothing to prevent the great being of Allah from making the moon split in Makkah over 1400 years ago. When all accept that, he shall make it split by means of the blowing of the trumpet on the day of Qiyamah. There is therefore no necessity to search for far-fetched interpretations of the verse. Now I'll recite 3 verses, 6, 7 and 8. فَتَوَلَّى عَنْهُمْ يَوْمَ يَدْعُ الدَّاعِي إِلَى شَيْءٍ نُكُرٍ. So ignore them, the day when the caller shall call to a thing that is unpleasant. خُشَّ عَنْ أَبْصَارُهُمْ يَخْرُجُونَ مِنَ الْأَجْدَاثِ كَأَنَّهُمْ جَرَادٌ مُنْتَشِرٌ. Their gazes will be cast down, and they shall emerge from their graves as if they are stretched locusts. مهطئين إلى الداع يقول الكافرون هذا يوم أسير. Running towards the caller, the disbelievers will say, this is an extremely difficult day. The first of the above verses addresses Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam by telling him, so ignore them. Allah commands Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam not to be heartbroken by the kuffar's rejection. They shall suffer the consequences of their deeds. Allah continues to say, the day when the caller shall call to a thing that is unpleasant. The caller in the verse refers to the angel who will blow the trumpet to sound the advent of Qiyamah. When Qiyamah will take place, the kuffar will see for themselves the truth of what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam preached to them. When the trumpet will be blown the second time, people will return to life and emerge from their graves. Allah describes the scene by saying, their gazes will be cast down, and they shall emerge from their graves as if they are scattered locusts running around towards the caller. The people will all hasten towards the plains of resurrection in droves of billions, because of the plains of resurrection will be large, open and vast. It will appear as if the large number of the people are swarms of locusts converging on a field. As this takes place, the disbelievers will say, this is an extremely difficult day. In Surah Marriage, verse number 43-44, Allah says, the day of Qiyamah, when they will hurriedly emerge from the graves as if they are rushing towards a temple, their gazes will be lowered, and humiliation will engulf them. This is the day that they were promised. Now I will recite from verse number 9 till 17. كذبت قبلهم قوم نوح فكذبوا عبدنا وقالوا مجنون وازدجر. The nation of Nuh denied before them. They falsified our slave, said that he is a madman, and he was rebuked. فَدَعَا رَبَّهُ أَنِّي مَغْلُوبٌ فَانْتَصِرْ. So he supplicated to his Rabb, saying, "Indeed, I am overpowered. To so assist me." فَفَتَحْنَا أَبْوَابَ السَّمَاءِ بِمَاءٍ مُنْهَمِرٍ. So we opened up the doors of the sky to torrential rains. فَفَجَرْنَا الْأَرْضَ عُيُونًا فَالْتَقَى الْمَاءُ عَلَى أَمْرٍ قَدْ قُدِرَ. And we cleaved springs in the earth so that the water met for a matter preordained. وَحَمَلْنَاهُ عَلَى ذَاتِ أَلْوَاحٍ وَدُسُرٍ. We carried him, Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam, on an ark of planks and nails. تَجْرِي بِأَعْيُنِنَا جَزَاءً لِمَنْ كَفَرَ لِمَنْ كَانَ كُفِرًا. Traveling under our vigilance, this was the reward for the one who was not appreciated. وَلَقَدْ تَرَكْنَاهَا آيَاتٍ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. Verily we left the incident as a lesson, so is there anyone who will take heed? فَكَيْفَ كَانَ عَذَابِي وَنُذِرِ. How was my punishment and my warnings? وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. Undoubtedly we have made the Quran simple to take lesson from. So is there any who will take lessons? On the obstinacy of the Makkah mushrikeen intensified, Allah Ta'ala cautioned them by relating the accounts of various nations of the past who falsified the Anbiya alayhi salam. Surah Al-Qamar briefly mentions the destruction of the nation of Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam, Hazrat Hud alayhi salam, the Ad, Hazrat Saleh alayhi salam, the Samud, and the nation of Hazrat Lut alayhi salam. Allah begins by making mention of the nation of Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam. Allah begins by making mention of the nation of Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam. Allah says, the nation of Nuh denied before them, that is before the mushrikeen of Makkah. They falsified our slave, said that he is a madman, and he was rebuked. The people of Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam behaved most disrespectfully towards him and refused even to listen to him. The details of this incident are found in Surah Araf, verses 59 till 64. Surah Hud, verses 25-49, and Surah Shura, verses 105 till 121. More will follow in Surah Nuh, inshallah. Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam preached Tawheed to his people for 650 years and made great efforts to guide the people. However, they refused to listen to him and accused him of being misguided by saying, "We see that you are surely in manifest deviation." They become so obstinate and bold that they said to Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam, "So bring forth what you promise us if you are of the truthful ones." In this way, they asked for punishment. Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam had already begun to lose hope in them because after 950 years' effort, only a few believed in him. Eventually, Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam grew frustrated and pleaded to Allah, saying, "O my Rabb, assist me, for they have denied me." The above verse of Surah Al-Qamar states that Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam also prayed to Allah, saying, "Indeed, I am overpowered, to assist me." The dua he made invoking Allah's punishment on his people is quoted in Surah Nuh as follows: "O my Rabb, leave not on earth even one of the disbelievers. Surely if you leave them, they will mislead your bondsmen, and only sinners and disbelievers will be born to them. Verses 26-27. Allah accepted the dua of Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam and commanded him to build an ark. Here in Surah Qamar, Allah describes the ark as an ark of planks and nails. When the ark was completed, Allah commanded Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam to take all the mu'mineen with him on the ark along with a pair of every animal. When this was done, Allah sent torrential rains from the sky and caused water to rush from the ground. The water level of the ground thus rose extremely high. As Allah says that the waters met for a matter preordained, the matter was the destruction of the entire disbelieving nation. The ark traveled under Allah's protection, and all aboard were kept safe while the kuffar all drowned. Because of the people ill-treated Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam and did not appreciate the good counsel to give them. Allah says, this was the reward for the one who was not appreciated. After making mention of the destruction of the kuffar, Allah says, really we left the incident as a lesson. So, is there anyone who will take heed? How was my punishment and my warnings? This verse makes it clear that the incident of the previous nations are not merely mentioned in the Quran for the sake of storytelling, but are mentioned so that people derive lessons from them. The punishments that afflicted the people of the past were not mere hardships, but were extremely devastating. The kuffar should ponder deeply about these incidents and realize that their plight shall be similar if they also choose to adamantly oppose the truth. Allah declares, undoubtedly we have made the Quran simple to take lesson from. So is there any who will take lessons? This verse is mentioned 4 times in Surah Qamar. The first time is after the incident of Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam. The second one follows the narrative of the Ahad. The third follows that of Samud, while the fourth follows the story of Hazrat Lut alayhi salam. The verse makes it clear that Allah has simplified the Quran for people. Thereafter, Allah invites man to derive lessons from the Quran. The Arabic phrase dhikr, translated above as to take lesson from, has been interpreted by Hazrat Sayyid bin Musib as for memorization and for recitation. This means that Allah has made the Quran easy to memorize and easy to recite. At the same time, Allah has also made the Quran easy to understand. Of course, every person does not have the capacity to deduce laws of jurisprudence from the Quran. This fact is no cause for objection because the verse does not state that every single part of the Quran from the beginning to the end is easily understandable in every way. It is incorrect for people to use this verse to interpret the Quran according to their personal understanding, thereby contradicting the interpretations of the Mufassirin. Most of the people do not even understand Arabic and the laws of the language. Allah Ta'ala has been extremely benevolent to the Muslim Ummah by granting us the ability to commit the Quran to memory. If it should ever happen, Allah forbid, that the writing copies of the Quran are destroyed, it can easily be rewritten according to the recitation of a young child who is Hafiz. The Jews and Christians lost their scriptures because they relied on the written copies. Now all they have is translation without an original with which to compare the translations. One of the great miracles of the Quran is that women, old women, children, and young adults of all age groups are able to memorize it. They are able to do this even though they would be able to memorize a lengthy lengthy next in their own languages. People who seek only this world are heedless of the Akhirah, and who make their children seekers of the world like themselves deprive themselves to a great boon of the Quran, of memorizing it and of reciting it with proper tajweed. The fact of the matter is that so many people are Muslims only by heritage. They are Muslims because they were born in a Muslim home and have no concern for educating themselves about the requisites of deen. To make matters worse, they cast their children in the same mold. True Muslims are those who take the Quran to heart, memorize it, and are able to recite it with proper tajweed. In addition to this, they make their children hufaz, educate their children in Islam, make them ulama, and keep them in the company of pious ulama. O Muslims, it is extremely easy to make your children hafiz. It is ignorant people who have made the statement that becoming a hafiz is akin to chewing iron balls. One should bear in mind that the Quran is not memorized because of the person's good memory, but because of a miracle. Subhanallah. Many ignorant people are given so to saying that there is no benefit in memorizing the Quran like a parrot. It is a tragic that such people know the value of money but are oblivious of the virtue of the akhirah hereafter. They seem not to understand that one earns the reward of 10 good deeds for every letter of the Quran that one recites. In addition to this, the parents of a Hafiz will be given a shining crown to wear on the day of Qiyamah, and the Hafiz will be permitted to intercede for his family members on the day of Qiyamah, thereby saving them from Jahannam. Many people fail to understand these benefits and say that a Hafiz will soon become a mullah and he will be unable to earn a living. I often tell people that the author says that he often tells people that nothing prevents a Hafiz from engaging in business or taking up employment if he wants to. Of course, becoming a mullah is an extremely great fortune of any person, but those who do not want this good fortune should at least make an effort to make their children Hafiz. Thereafter, they are at liberty to pursue any lawful career. Author said he have seen many people becoming hufaz while working, while studying, and even after growing white hairs. Children who become hufaz are blessed with an excellent memory and develop an extremely sound understanding. It is noticed that they always excel their peers in any field they choose to further their studies. The blessing of the Quran causes people to progress in this world as well as in the Akhirah. It is regrettable that so many people have not understood the immense blessing that the Quran offers. They will realize this only once try it for themselves. Just as it is important to memorize the Quran, it is also extremely important to ensure that one does not forget it after memorizing. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Take care not to allow the Quran to slip away from the memory by reciting it in salah and out of salah." I swear by the being in whose control is my life, the Quran is quicker to escape one's memory than a camel that is loosely fastened. Narrated by Mishkat, page 190 from Bukhari and Muslim. Just as the Quran is quickly memorized and absorbed into the hearts of those who value it, it rapidly vanishes from the heart of those who are not particular about revising it often. The Quran is not in need of any person and has no need to remain with the person who is indifferent towards it. There are severe punishments for those who forget the Quran. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "The person who forgets the Quran after learning it shall appear before Allah on the day of Qiyamah in the form of a leper, that is, without teeth and limbs." Narrated by Mishkat, page number 191 from Abu Dawud and Darmi. The Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam also mentioned, when the good deeds of any ummah were shown to me, I noticed among these are the deeds of removing any harmful object lying in a masjid. When the sins of any of my ummah were shown to me, I did not see any sin graver than that of a person forgetting a surah or verse of the Quran that was given to him. Narrated by Mishkat, page number 69 from Tirmizi and Abu Dawud. People who make their children Hafaz do not merely look at the few years of effort in this year, but focus on the success of the Akhirah and the everlasting boons to be found there. Allah shall surely appreciate the efforts of such people. Now I'll recite from verse number 18 till 22. كذبت عاد فكيف كان عذابي ونذر. The Ad denied, so how was my punishment and warning? إنا أرسلنا عليهم ريحا صرصرا في يوم نحس مستمر. Verily we sent against them a chronicle wind during days of perpetual misfortune. تنزع الناس كأنهم أعجاز نخل منقعر. It outstared people as if they were uprooted palm trunks. Verse number 21. فَكَيْفَ كَانَ عَذَابِي وَنُذُرِ. So how was my punishment and warning? وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِّرٍ. Undoubtedly we have made the Quran simple to take lessons from. So is there any who will take lessons? Allah sent Hud salam as a messenger to the nation of Ad. When he preached to them the message of Tawheed and made great effort to reform them, they acted insolently and said to them, "Indeed, we see you in foolishness, and we surely consider you to be among the liars." They also told him that they were not at all convinced by the warnings of the punishment that he sounded to them. They said, "Bring what you have promised us if you are of truthful." Consequently, Allah sent against them a chronicle wind during days of perpetual misfortune. The wind raged for 7 consecutive nights and 8 consecutive days. As the wind blew, the earth were cast down like filled palms. They are likened to palm trees because they were extremely stolid and powerful people. Stolid, and powerful people. In fact, Allah says about the earth that they were arrogant on earth without reason and said, "Who can be more powerful than us?" Their pride was smashed when the wind disproved their invincibility. Allah says that the wind was so powerful that it outstared people as if they were uprooted palm trunks. Allah states in Surah Haqqa, verse number 7, "You would have seen them lying flat on the ground as if they were hollow palm trunks." Allah concludes this incident by saying, "So how severe was my punishment and warnings? Undoubtedly we have made the Quran simple to take lessons from. So is there any who will take lessons?" Here we comes to an end of the part 1. We'll recite the remaining verses till 55 from 23 till 55 in the part 2. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.